So when will this all be over? Or where can I go to escape it? What, the coronavirus? That I don't know. But suffering, that I do know. There will be a definitive time when our suffering is over. There'll be a definitive place where we will go, where we will experience suffering and evil no more. That place is called heaven. It's the only place. It's the only time, even outside of time, where we will not experience evil or suffering. And we long for that day. We long for the time in which we can join in that eternal exchange of love in its purest form. But until then, we're going to be here on this earth. There's not a place on this earth that doesn't experience suffering, doesn't experience evil. There's no place you can go. There's no time that it will end until our earthly life ends. And that shouldn't be fearful. That shouldn't be something that we are afraid of embracing. Because Jesus says this in John chapter 16. He says, in this world you will always have trouble. He doesn't lie to us. He doesn't tell us that our sufferings will be over if we follow him. In this world you will always have trouble. But be of good cheer, or have hope. Let your heart be full of joy, because I have overcome the world. I have overcome suffering. I've overcome evil. I've overcome corruption. I've overcome death. And that's what you must live for. And I'm offering you that eternal exchange of love for eternity. You get to join into that. And so he offers us that. And he whets our appetite for the real world, what we're really living for, reminding us that we don't live for this world. We live for his kingdom, that world in which he came from, that he expresses to us. I came from a different kingdom. I'm a king of a different kingdom, he tells Pilate. And so we live for that world, and he whets our appetite by telling us, in this world you will have suffering, but I've overcome it. And I'm inviting you into that. And you know what? We get to choose heaven. We get to choose eternal peace. We get to choose a place without suffering. Paul tells us how to get there. Paul, this great apostle of Jesus Christ, Paul, who wrote so many letters in the New Testament, he writes one to the Colossians. And in the letter to the Colossians, he says, I now rejoice in my sufferings. Sounds crazy. I rejoice in my sufferings to make up what was lacking in the sufferings of Jesus Christ. Sounds even crazier. What was lacking in the sufferings of Jesus Christ? Well, it was all sufficient for our salvation. We know that. It was the perfect sacrifice once and for all for the salvation of the world. Well, what is Paul talking about? What was lacking in the sufferings of Jesus? Paul was keenly aware that what was lacking is your sufferings and mine. That he had to join his sufferings with the sufferings of Christ in order to join in that eternal exchange of love. When Jesus came down from heaven, the eternal exchange of love came down from heaven and into our lives. And then he invited us into it. Simon understood it, not at first, but Simon joined in the sufferings of Christ by joining his sufferings to those of Jesus. And he showed his love back to the Father by giving himself to Jesus and joining his exchange of love through suffering. How are we going to do it? You and I join our sufferings to the sufferings of Jesus. We reciprocate the love that he has shown us. And that is the way out. That is the way to the new world. That is the way to the end of suffering, by consecrating them to the cross of Jesus Christ and union with the suffering of Jesus to the Father. When will it all end? Where will it all end? That time that we long for, that place that we live for, the eternal exchange of love, which we've already joined in on by our sufferings, and a place where there'll be no more suffering, the gift of heaven.